Hello, everyone. This is Casey with Aligned Astrology, bringing you some more content today. The new moon is in a sign of Cancer. This new moon is in its domicile, in its home sign. When we have the new moon in its home, we get to experience a new moon, a seeding point, in its most pure form. It has its own natural coloring, its own natural flavor. As Cancer represents our family circumstances, our home, our emotional foundation. This new moon is a time of beginning again. Just like when we have full moons in the sign of Leo, or we have new moons in the sign of Leo, like we're going to have, the sun takes on a very prominent characteristic in that point. This new moon is conjoined with Mercury, and Mercury has just come out of a cazimi. This lunation cycle begins on July 14th, and on the 12th of July, that cazimi just occurred. And a cazimi is a point of clarity. Cazimis aren't always good things, they're not always bad things. It's an opportunity for us to shine the light truly into something that we need to be mindful of. And since Mercury is retrograde right now, maybe we have taken the time to return back to something that we've been previously working on, to connect with family, to connect with old friends. Whatever the case may be, this new beginning is helping us to look at those things that we've been over and move in a different direction. We're going to pull up the astrology chart very shortly so we can look together at how this lunation cycle is going to express itself. But it's important for us to note that when we have the new moon at the end of a sign, it's preparing to move into the next zodiac sign. And as we may know, we just recently had Jupiter in the sign of Cancer for the past year. Jupiter just recently moved in to the sign of Leo at the end of June. And now, as Jupiter's in Leo, it's just left its exaltation. The moon is preparing to do the next thing as well. It's leaving from its home sign and is joining that Jupiter. Now, when we read the expression of the different planets, we notice the aspects that they make. This is how astrology is expressed to us. This is how we can read it and understand what may conspire, what may come about. The moon moves very fast. It moves through the chart 28 days. So, as the moon separates from the sun, it's going to almost immediately the next day connect with Jupiter. So we can begin to look at how Jupiter expresses itself in conjunction with this new moon. We can look at how Mercury and the ruler which is the ruler of both Gemini and Virgo. We can see how these planetary bodies that are currently in these signs are also expressing themselves. Because when we look at the planets that are co-present, a new moon, we like to look at what they have rulership over. How is the greater picture expressing itself? What's being shown to us at this point in time? So let's go ahead and pull up the chart so we can look together and see what this new moon has in store for us, what this new lunation cycle is trying to show. Looking at the transit chart for July 14th, we see that the moon is going to conjoin the sun, culminating this new moon at 21 degrees. Mercury is separating from this new moon, but it is still within a 3-degree orb range. As we talk about the different planetary bodies that are associated with this Mercury retrograde, we know that Uranus and Mars were recently conjunct in the sign of Gemini. We know that Venus has recently moved into the sign of Virgo. So these different planetary bodies express themselves under the guidance of a retrograde Mercury, under the guidance of one planet who chooses to rethink and go over things once again. It's important to express, and maybe you've seen my last video where we talked about the deeper meaning of Mercury retrograde. As this Mercury retrograde comes to an end in about 10 days or so, give or take a few days after, the planet Saturn is going to station and go retrograde as well. It's kind of like Mercury's passing the retrograde on to Saturn. Mercury is going to station direct about 16 degrees in the sign of Cancer, within that 3-degree orb range of a square from the planet Saturn. So we can begin to notice how these retrograde periods have connected and how the flavor of this lunation cycle begins that expression for us, begins that experience. Not to mention, we have so many different things going on right after, and we're going to move the chart forward just a little bit so we can see it together. Just moving it a day forward. Right after the sun and moon separate from one another, moon conjoins and passes Jupiter. So it's like a transfer of light, connecting to Jupiter, shining a light into this part of our life where we need to begin to express ourselves in a more confident way, to share the things that we've been cultivating behind the scenes. So maybe that's what this full moon or this new moon does for us. We plant that seed. We build a concrete foundation for us to stand on and share ourselves, share the things that we've been building to the public in our true, authentic self. But we must be mindful that soon after, giving a few days, on July 15th, we're going to have Jupiter in opposition with Pluto. We're not going to talk about that right now, but just to give you an idea of how these lunation cycles begin to get the ball rolling with different things. This is our last lunation cycle before the nodes switch signs. The North Node and the South Node will be moving into the signs of Leo and Aquarius, causing for the next 18 months of change. We've had all the outer planets make a big shift into new signs where they're going to be for the next couple years. So it's important for us to see that this is the final new moon before we enter into the new waters, into the new experience. So this new moon in the sign of Cancer can be showing us the importance of taking a moment for ourselves, slowing down. In my own personal experience, which has been tremendously busy, I've been seeing the importance of slowing down and focusing on the things that may take precedence over the other things. Since I am a Scorpio Rising, having Saturn in the 6th house in Aries has been a doozy, might I say. It's been calling me to choose accordingly, choose wisely, instead of trying to do everything all at once. Being a Sagittarius sun, it's fun to be a jack of all trades, to try to do many things, right? But Saturn in the sign of Aries does not want me to do that right now. So it's calling me to make a decision. It's calling me to grow up in this part of my life and make the time for my friends, make the time for my family, my partner, and slow down in the realm of work. Or let's not say necessarily slow down, but even transition, change the way that I'm doing things. So this new moon can be a seeding point for me in this case. to restructure my way of thinking, restructure my way of expressing the information that I know, the tools, skills, and abilities that I have gained over this amount of time, up to being 31 years old, and use it in a more constructive way, in a way that can be beneficial for myself and make space, make room for my own experience and connecting truly with the people in my life, because maybe that's where the lesson is right now. Maybe that's where the real wisdom is, the true teaching. So what I want to do today for you friends is go over the horoscopes quickly so we can get an idea of how these planetary bodies are going to be affecting us this lunation cycle. We're going to start with Aries Risings, being that I am a traditional Hellenistic astrologer. I always begin with the tropical zodiacal sign, cardinal Aries. So we can listen for our rising sign, we can listen for our sun sign, we can listen for our moon sign, we can listen to everything. But when you want to go about horoscopic astrology and reading according to your rising sign, this is best because it determines where all the planets were at the point in time you were born. As this is a form of divination, you may benefit from listening to all of the different signs. Maybe you listen to them for people in your family, for your friends, to gain more insight in their lives and experiences. It's always beneficial. But as we begin Aries Risings, you are experiencing this new moon in Cancer in the 4th house. In the place of home and solitude, this is the place where we go to be free, go to be ourselves completely. Being that is the sign of Cancer, it can be correlated with our foundation, our family, our roots, our upbringing. It can also be correlated with our father in traditional astrology. Maybe the relationship with our father, being that Mercury is retrograde right here and now. And we just had a Kazemi in the sign of Cancer. We could have been having a conversation. We could have gotten clear insight and clarity around something that came up in a conversation, or simply by being in our own space, noticing something about our home that we need to change. And as we understand these things, as we begin something new in our foundation, in our home, this is going to affect our daily experiences. It's going to affect how we choose to share ourselves with our connections, with our community, our partners, our family in this case. Being that we may have Saturn in the 1st house, and knowing that it's going to soon go retrograde, this is going to call us to slow down, particularly, especially since Saturn's in rulership over the 10th house of career. Maybe this lunation cycle is planting the seed to show us it's time to focus in on home. It's time to focus in on family. Aries Risings. Taurus Rising, friends. The new moon in Cancer is in the 3rd house. One of the traditional techniques that we use is the planetary joys. And the planetary joys places the moon in the 3rd house in its joy. The reason why this is because the moon moves fast, and the 3rd house is correlated with our day-to-day experiences, the people we connect with on a daily basis, our siblings, our neighbors, people of this nature, the short distance places that we travel to. But the 3rd house is always correlated with our writing as well, our communication. And Mercury is retrograde here right now. Being so, it gives us an opportunity to rethink our daily experience, to make a change here, to slow down, of course. Maybe we've been dealing with many different challenges on our day, especially with Mercury retrograde here. With Mercury retrograde, it goes to show that the 2nd house and the 5th house may be taking precedence right now. in regards to our skills and abilities, in regards to our creative endeavors, have been probably making a shift in our daily expression. Maybe we've had to take a turn and now are going to be doing something a little bit different in our day-to-day experiences. As Saturn chooses to slow down and station retrograde, we'll begin to see the importance of looking into ourselves, to see the importance of what it means to slow down, to divert our attention to something deeper within ourselves. So it's important to take all these things into consideration. Taurus rising, as this lunation cycle brings so many different things, from the Saturn retrograde to all of the different outer planets entering into these new signs and changing the flavor of our experience. Gemini rising experiences the new moon in the second house. Second house correlated with our finance, our skills and abilities, opportunities to share ourselves. Here, as a Gemini rising, Mercury is your ruler. So when Mercury is retrograde in the second house, it can go to show that things that you've been learning, that you've been working on, that you've been trying to even correct in your experience, are taking that turn. Maybe different opportunities came into fruition. Opportunities to begin something new. Opportunities to do the things that you've been wanting to do for a long time. And when Mercury stations direct, it's going to be a forward motion. And maybe there's something that is going on the day of Mercury stationing direct, which will be on July 24th. And as that Mercury stations at 16 degrees, we can look at our own personal charts and see if it is making any aspects to our natal planets. But this Mercury retrograde may have been playing a part in our home as well, in our foundation, correcting and transforming, changing things, or fixing things. But this new moon lunation cycle is offering us an opportunity to possibly do something new, to gain wealth, to gain skills, to learn and share ourselves. And maybe it's all for the benefit of the people that we love. Maybe it's for our own emotional well-being. Geminis, we move here into Cancer. Cancer risings experience the new moon in the first house. And it can be like a complete makeover, right? When we think about new moons, our new beginnings, seeding points in the first house of ourself, our expression, our identity. Being that Jupiter has recently just left our first house and entered into our second house, this can go to show that the character that we've been cultivating over the past years is now ready to be shared, is now ready to be expressed, and in turn received by people around us. And as we offer and express ourselves, we can even gain from it. But being that Jupiter, which has just left our first house, and the moon will almost the next day conjoin with Jupiter, it's like an omen, right? It's giving us an insight as Jupiter comes into opposition with Pluto, that our way of being, our way of expression is going to be very important. It's going to be seen. And we can ask ourselves how we want to be seen, how we want to share ourselves, what's coming up for us right now, what's going to be very important in this case. And since Mercury is retrograde, we want to talk about the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, the ruler of Virgo. In our day-to-day workings, in our third house and in our 12th house, the way of unconscious, the things that we don't see about ourselves, we can begin to see these things through the people around us, through our life experiences, through our own expressions, our mirrors. So notice, Cancer rising, how we're expressing ourselves, what's coming up from it, how's this lunation cycle beginning again for us. And now we look into Leo rising, who experiences this new moon in the 12th house. Leo risings, when we have new moons in the 12th house, it can be something that comes up just so subtly, something that we don't necessarily see right away, something that can be seen in the eyes of other people. The 12th house is something we have to be really in tune with ourselves to be mindful of. If we weren't studying astrology, this is something that would just possibly pass us right by. So when we think about a new moon in the sign of Cancer, it can be almost an intuitive or psychic sort of experience that comes up. Something that can happen along the lines of our dreams, our dream experiences. Being that Mercury is retrograde right here, we're rethinking things. We're going over these deeper parts of ourselves. Maybe things are coming up from the past. As Cancer is very good with the memory, very good with nostalgia, remembering things. Maybe different things are coming up that are important for us to see about ourselves, about our childhood, about our family. That Mercury responsible for our second house and our 11th house can show that a community that we're a part of, the acquaintances that we have are very important right now. How we choose to share ourselves, the skills that we have, how we're putting them into practice is playing a part in this lunation cycle. And we must take into consideration how they can be beneficial to us in a nurturing sort of way, not in a workaholic way, but in a way that can be of benefit to us, that offers us the ease that we need in life at this point in time. When we have these new moons, we must really be mindful that a new moon in its purest form in the sign of Cancer wants us to care for ourselves, wants us to care for the people around us, for Leo rising. And here are Virgo risings. You have this experience of the new moon in the sign of the 11th house in Cancer. In the 11th house of community, of our good fortune, our benefit from the outside world, we can begin to see the community that we're part of, the acquaintances that we surround ourselves with, as, once again, a mirror. When we talk about Cancer, we talk about the people that are collective around us, our support system. As Mercury is retrograde, maybe that support system has been changing. Maybe we are the ones who have been changing inside that support system, since Mercury is our own domicile ruler. Mercury is responsible for our 10th house as well. So the things that we do for our financial well-being, for our career, what we're seen for, what people know us for, maybe these things are becoming more beneficial for the people around us. Maybe it's opening the door for us to change what we do in order to be easier on ourselves, to give ourselves a break, allowing ourselves to do the things that we've always wanted to do. And since that moon is separating from the sun, coming into conjunction with Jupiter, we begin to see how this past year has played a part in our life. And maybe it comes through the eyes of the people around us, through the partnerships, the connections that we've made over the past year. Because as Jupiter moves into the 12th house, it goes into that place that we don't necessarily see, but we can see it through the eyes of others. So Virgo Risings, be mindful of the connections that you've made and how they can be of benefit to you. Libra Rising, you experience this new moon in the 10th house. New moons we see as the planting of seeds, but they are also opportunities to enter into a new path or change direction, especially with a Mercury retrograde co-present. Mercury retrograde responsible for our 12th house, and Virgo in the 12th house is like that perfection mind, that the one who I guess we could say is the perfectionist. And the ninth house is correlated with our higher learning, our long distance travel. Maybe there's something that we've recently learned from traveling abroad or studying something new, implementing a new teaching that we've gained into our own experience. And maybe it's playing a part in our public role. If it's playing a part in what we want to do in the future, maybe we're planting that seed right now. We're formulating the different projects so we can begin to promote something to the people that we present ourselves to. And it's important to notice that as this seed is planted, it will take a little bit of time to grow. It's going to, as Saturn prepares to station retrograde in our seventh house, and it's going to square that Mercury once it stations direct, we get an opportunity to see just how much our relationships play a part in our public role, just how much collaboration can be beneficial to us, and that we need to be able to slow down in order to see what everybody else needs to make sure that we can be cohesive in our creation. Next, we have Scorpio Rising. Scorpio Rising friends, you have this new moon in the ninth house. We have this new moon in the ninth house as Scorpio Risings. And here, over time, and we can begin to look back over this past year and see what we've done, see what teachers, what teachings Jupiter has brought in the sign of Cancer, and now what expressions and implementations we have cultivated behind the scenes that we are now to share publicly as Jupiter has moved into the 10th house. Because it's very interesting when we start talking about Jupiter in opposition with Pluto, because Pluto is bringing things up from the surface, especially in this case with Pluto in the 4th house. It's like, where's the vulnerability? It's time to show yourself, right? Pluto is boiling up from below, and Jupiter is the star of the show, shining the light. So as the nodes of fate shift into the 10th house and the 4th house, it's going to show it's time to be authentic. It's time to share the things that come naturally so that way you can be seen. It's time to embody those teachings. And with Mercury retrograde here right now, maybe you're beginning to teach and share differently to the community, to the public. Maybe it's time to focus more into the 8th house endeavors, to notice what debts need to be completed, removed, corrected. And maybe these things are falling away naturally, all because of what we've learned, all because of the teachings that we've gained, because of a teacher that we've received. Maybe it's time to allow these things to transform our public role in a different way. Scorpio Rising. Sagittarius Rising has this new moon in Cancer in the 8th house. The esteem of others or other people's money. The outside sources that benefit us directly. Now, as a Sagittarius Rising, we just had our own domicile ruler as your Sagittarius Risings, Jupiter, leave from the sign of Cancer. So over your past year, you've experienced that Jupiter, that planet of abundance, moving through your 8th house. So you can know in real time how it's affected you. Maybe it had something to do with the debts in your experience. Maybe it had something to do with a beneficial partner or connection that has been able to support you over these times and set you up for greatness. And as Jupiter moves into your 9th house, maybe you're taking those things that you've learned, that you received from the support system around you, and implementing it to travel, to learn, to go to school, to do whatever you need to do in order to publish something that you've been working on, to share these different things. And that Mercury that's been retrograde is ruling over the 10th house, is ruling over the 7th house. So when we talk about these places, these angular places in a Sagittarius rising chart, we can notice the importance of the relationships, the communication that we've had with these relationships and connections, and how they've been playing a part in our public role, how they've been playing a part in our career. noticing what we've received from these people and not taking it for granted, but implementing it properly so that we can share and express ourselves in a way to where we can be seen authentically, in a way to where we can be received for the things that we want to share. Sagittarius. Capricorn rising, you have you have Saturn in the fourth house, but we have this new moon in the sign of Cancer in the seventh house, one-on-one relationships. So, as Capricorn, the sign that is always seen for its hard working effort, its devotion, takes a moment to look into the realm of the partner, and this seeding point can begin to show us the support systems that we have, the new beginnings that are here. When we talk about the seventh house according to traditional astrology, we see it as a place of endings as well. So maybe something's coming to an end. With Mercury retrograde here, things are always being shaken up, being transformed, redirected. That Mercury's rulership over the sixth house, over the ninth house, can show us that our own health may be important to be mindful of. Our own active efforts need to possibly change. The things that we've been focused on studying, learning, perfecting may need to be let go of, may need to take the back seat to the connections, the relationships we have, to the support systems that may have been helping us towards these endeavors. As the nodes shift into the signs of the eighth house and the second house, we can then begin to find our focus in these realms. And we can notice over the past year, when Jupiter was in the sign of Cancer, how the support systems, our relationships, have made a great benefit to us. And now that Jupiter has moved into the eighth house, we can see how the seeds that person, that relationship has planted for us can begin to flourish, can begin to feed us, support us. And we can see for ourselves what we need to give back, how we need to show up in these relationship connections. Capricorn. Now, Aquarius Rising. The moon will be in your sixth house of health, of service, your daily efforts. And when we have Cancer in the sixth house, we usually see the sixth house in traditional astrology as a bad house. It's the house where we talk about our health, we talk about our efforts, we talk about working hard, right? But having a new moon here, a new beginning in the sign of Cancer, it can be putting our efforts, moving diligently towards a positive connection, a relationship with people around us, a relationship with our own physical body, our own well-being. And that Jupiter that has been with us over the last year, that has now moved into our seventh house, can show us that the relationship with ourselves fosters and creates very positive and wonderful relationships with the people around us. As Jupiter comes into the seventh house and begins to express itself, it can show that we ourselves may be changing, or our partner may be changing, and really telling us what they need and the experience. As Jupiter opposes Pluto, which is in our first house, we begin to see truly through the eyes of other people. Maybe we see ourselves most clearly. Maybe we see the truth that the people in our life, the support systems we have, are expressing to us. And this can be of great benefit to us. Since Mercury is retrograded, we want to speak about it as it rules over the fifth house, over the eighth house, the fifth house of creativity, of children, of romance. It can be closely correlated to our partnerships. The eighth house, which is also the esteem of others, can be closely correlated to our partnerships. Maybe there's something we need to let go of, our old way of being, our old way of expression. Maybe we need to nurture ourselves more so we can show up properly in our relationships. Aquarius Rising. Lastly, we look into the sign of Pisces. As Pisces Risings experience this new moon in Cancer in the fifth house. Cancer in the fifth experiences this place of children, this place of romance. With Mercury retrograde here rules over our fourth house of family, home, foundation, the seventh house of one-on-one relationships. Maybe we want some kids. Maybe we're talking about that with our partner. And we must understand that there's never a right time for these things. We can always plan and plan, but children are something of divine nature, as divine timing. We as human beings, we may think that we have the wherewithal, the will to just decide that we want some children, but it just simply does not work like that, friends. We can lay down, we can make it happen, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. This is of godly nature. This is when we talk about Cancer, the fifth house. This is the mother. This is where life comes into being, right? This is something that we just truly don't have control over, what happens before this life. Just like when we talk about Capricorn and Saturn and death, we don't have control over what happens after, right? To our knowledge. But we're speaking about this right now to simply express the importance of having these conversations, understanding what our partner needs, understanding what we need, and working towards those things. Being that this is a new moon of romance, a new moon of creativity, a new moon for children, we can begin to work in that direction. Over the past year, we had Jupiter moving through this place, moving through the fifth house, which offered a great opportunity for fecundation, as Jupiter, it can be correlated with the sexual energies. Moving through the fifth house of Cancer, correlated with the mother. Now it's moved into the sixth house of efforts and service and being seen for these things that we've tried to cultivate. Jupiter, ruler over your first house, Pisces. We can begin to notice how our endeavors have shaped our daily life, the efforts that we take on a daily basis, and how we can connect with our partner based off of these previous and current experiences. So Pisces Risings, as this new moon culminates in your fifth house, notice what creative endeavors you may want to take on. Notice how beneficial having children could be for you. Notice what you could create that could be like a child. What business endeavors may show themselves. And this brings our horoscopes to an end for the new moon in the sign of Cancer. I'm just gonna stop this share. So when we talk about a new moon in its purest form, friends, it's always good to see what planets it is connecting with. It's great to see how the co-present planets express themselves as well, so we can see how the other planets are tied in, even if there are not any direct aspects to the new moon. So friends, if you like this kind of content, please like the video, subscribe, so that way you can continue to receive this content, and so that someone like you can see the algorithm, can see this channel, and benefit from it. Thanks so much for being here, friends. This is Casey with Aligned Astrology, and we will see you next time.